Juliet Monday program. Today we have with us Captain Tyler Chandler with the Mount Juliet Police Department, and there's nothing I could say that would add anything to what you already don't know about him and his resume, but we are so blessed to have he and Chief and so many wonderful officers. There's probably not a community in Tennessee, maybe not in the country, that are more endeared to their police department than Mount Juliet and all you've done with us. But thanks for joining us today, and always interesting to kind of hear what might be new at the police department. Certainly don't be afraid, Captain Chandler, to ask if there's anything that we can do to help you. But in your remarks, if you would, be sure to mention what you can about this Guardian Shield, because I have friends that are, we probably all do, that are maybe not from here. Most of them have never even heard of this thing, but boy, that is, I think you're getting a tremendous bang for your buck on that. So how are you this morning?
Hey, always good. And Mark, we appreciate the invite. I think with, the COVID-19 that's going around and with technology we have today, these Zooms and Facebook Lives and whatever we're doing, trying to connect with our community is great. And like I said, I appreciate the opportunity to connect here with the chamber and connect with everyone who's on. I see some familiar faces from Tracy Pope down at Vanderbilt Wilson. Kenny Martin's on there, Sarah Tate. There's Active Life, so appreciate everyone that's on today. But Guardian Shield, Mark, it's an awesome new program that we had, and when we first went with Guardian Shield, we knew we would be faced with some type of pushback from the community, because no one wants the government, using more technology to watch them in a way. And that's kind of how Guardian Shield was initially perceived. Us as a police department, we knew that there was great value in a automated license plate recognition system, which has since been discovered by our community as we are transparent about it. But we originally went into Guardian Shield because we noticed a crime wave in our community, which really affected multiple communities around Nashville, where teens, basically, some were adults, some were younger than 14, are still in vehicles, carjacking folks, and then driving those cars into suburban communities. Mount Juliet happened to be one of those, but Franklin, Brentwood, Laverne, Smyrna, Hendersonville, all those different communities had similar issues with this. We needed something to stop that, and so we started to look at different automated license plate recognition systems, because we knew if we could alert our officers on the vehicles, on the stolen vehicles that we're using, then we basically stop them from being successful in our community. And if thieves aren't successful in a community, they will go elsewhere to commit crime. So we essentially wanted a virtual gated community, and that's what we've created. We have 39 automated license plate recognition system cameras up throughout the community that keep an eye on things. And when a vehicle drives through where that license plate is associated with a hot list, it alerts our officers, and then they have this portal in their car on their laptop. It shows the vehicle picture, shows exactly where it's at on the map, and they're able to intercept it. And they've been very, very, very successful with that. Looking at the data that I have in front of me, since April 1, which was really our go live date with this vendor and the majority of cameras that we have up, we've intercepted 45 different vehicles. When I say interceptions, that is something where we received an alert and we were successful at stopping this person. There's many, many times where we get an alert, we attempt to stop, but the person doesn't stop. And if it's not a violent felony where that person needs to be stopped for some community danger, we don't stop them and they continue. And we just make sure that they get out of our city. But we have to weigh the risk of pursuit versus the risk to the public. And sometimes it's not worth chasing someone over a property crime. So there are times when we intercept and deter rather than intercept and catch. But our biggest success story out of Guardian Shield was 2 murder suspects. One was a murder suspect out of Louisiana who was trying to hide out this way in Tennessee. And most recently, there was a murder suspect who murdered someone in a parking lot in Springfield, Tennessee, and happened to be driving through our community, and the system alerted on their vehicle, and we were able to get that person stopped. But there's countless of stolen cars, countless stolen plates, and very, 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 very successful. It's amazing. We have tons of different communities calling us and asking us, what is the system that you have? How does it work? And why is it so successful? One question we get from the community, though, is with anything, if it's not out there in your face, if it's not data that you constantly look at, if it's new data to you, you're wondering, why in the world are all these stolen cars and wanted people and stolen tags coming to Mount Juliet? You know, why are we having this frequency of this? Is there a crime problem in Mount Juliet? And not at all. These cars drive through all different communities. We just happen to be the community that has a system that alerts us and we're able to capture them and take them into custody. But they were really always driving through our community. We just didn't know it. And they will probably continue to drive through. As word gets out, we'll see less and less of it, but there are those people who will not think that we have this system up, and they will drive through our community, and we will take them into custody. So in a nutshell, that's what Guardian Shield is. The future of Guardian Shield, we have a lot of HOA neighborhoods reaching out to us because they want these systems in their neighborhoods. And about October, our vendor will release a new program to allow neighborhoods to basically buy their own camera or that we can access for the Guardian Shield alerts that are out there.
Is this a program that, I mean, I think we all probably need to give hats off to the elected officials for stepping up and allocating the funds for it.
Absolutely.
Unlike maybe the red light cameras that we had years back, those did, you know, and folks didn't like it, but those did generate revenue. Those were revenue neutral, and maybe there was even some money to the city. Mm-hmm. Is Guardian Shield, are there ever any resources that come back, whether that's fines for the people that you catch or selling off their, you know, confiscated goods, or is this just going to be something the community is going to need to embrace, pass that along to the elected officials so they continue to fund it?
Sure, there's a lot of benefits to Guardian Shield that come in the way of funding, but not really as revenue as you would think, like a citation would be. Guardian Shield allows us to solve many crimes. So, you know, when I get with our detective division, there's countless of crimes that they're able to solve, such as frauds, trailer theft rings, vehicle theft rings, stuff happening in our business community, people passing fake bills, you know, people trying to commit frauds and online purchases with credit cards that aren't theirs. We're able to solve those crimes, but when we solve those crimes and have someone arrested, it leads to justice for the victim and restitution for the victim. If we never caught them, they would not have that justice or restitution. So instead of the benefit coming back to the police department or the city to use for funding resources, this benefit goes directly back to the citizens in the community and our business folk in the community and our residents in the community that have been victimized by these offenders. We never went into this system thinking it was going to be a revenue generator. As a police department, we don't look at revenue generation. We simply look at what we can do to keep the city safe. But we really wanted this to alert our officers when there is someone in our community who is involved in criminal activity. And that's the only way that system will alert us. We don't use it for any other purpose. There's legislation locally that our local commission enacted to further restrict the data that we use. We only can use 30 days of it to solve a crime. And it's definitely not used for traffic enforcement based purposes at all, nor would we want to. Like I said, we really want just that alert when someone enters our community that's associated with criminal activity. And it works very, very, very well.
Have you seen with so many 45 vehicles just in the last couple of months? I know resources are limited, but there's some manpower, woman power being redirected from something else just to take care of these. Because I've heard you in the past that sometimes there's more than one patrol officer that's involved in the stopping of these folks. This fitting in okay with all of the other stuff you're doing? It looks pretty intense.
Sure, it is intense, and when we do have a an interception, it takes more than one police officer. We try to limit pursuits. Most people in stolen vehicles or who are wanted are those who will not stop for the police. So instead of the officer being surprised and stopping a car and all of a sudden realizing they're wanted because they're evading you, this gives us more intelligence and more time to develop a plan. So we'll have officers downrange with spike strips set up. We'll have officers in the area so we can flood this suspect with multiple officers to box them in. That's what we did with the most wanted suspect 2 weeks ago. We were just able to box them in very quickly, and before they can think to run, they're already apprehended. They're already, basically boxed in. There's nowhere for them to go. But once that occurs, once they're in custody, those officers are back freed up. But with this system, we believe, and it's hard to put a number on it right now, but we believe it's preventing crime, which, again, if we have less crime in our community, less we need, the resources there are not as great, right? But we also have a growing community. So you will always see us continue to add police officers. But with this system, our investment annually is $100,000. And to hire one police officer, if you consider the equipment, the benefits related to their insurance and their salary, it's anywhere from $90,000 to $110,000, $120,000 when you start to factor in the vehicle. And I think it's really going to allow our police department to continue to do a lot with less, just investing in technology to keep this city safe. So rather than having to hire tons of police officers, it'll allow us to continue to do that slow, gradual hiring process where we continue to add officers. But, just kudos back to our elected officials who supported this and support the different I'm trying to think lack of a better word here, but the different missions that we put forth in front of them and trust our leadership here at the police department with these programs. And we appreciate that because they're very trusting in us. We work hard to maintain that trust with them, and they back us 110%. And most recently, with our growth that we continue to have in the community, I believe it was Commissioner Art Giles who sponsored a resolution for us to do a 10-year strategic plan, which we are currently working on, but they already voted as a commission to support us with a RFP going out, a request for proposal to expand police headquarters, which is definitely a need right now because as we grow, we need space. And at this moment in time, our space is maxed out. So if we get that RFP out and get that out to a builder and a project manager, you'll hopefully start to see police headquarters expanding.
Very good. That certainly the citizens are getting a value, and there's also value in just feeling safe too, which is important. But does anybody online have any questions? Most of you probably know at least a little bit about it. You said you had 39 cameras in place. Is that something that we can add more as the city grows?
Yeah, we believe right now with our urban growth boundaries all captured by these cameras. But we're getting a lot of feedback from neighborhoods who want this. So you'll start to see the system grow as neighborhoods come online to support the system. But, it's interesting. We have, for the realtors that are online, we have tons of people calling us about Mount Juliet and the safe community that we have. And when we mention this system, I think that's, an extra feather in Mount Juliet's hat that, we invest in public safety in our community. And we basically have this virtual gated community, right, that keeps criminal activity out based off of the Guardian Shield and how it works.
Does anybody have any follow-up questions or comments for Captain Chandler?
I have a question. Tina Hudson-Pillar.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Hey, Tina.
How are you this morning?
I am good. What about you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Great.
Actually, this is a twofold question. Will there be a police presence next week when the new Green Hill High School opens up? And secondly, how are y'all advising citizens of the new traffic pattern with the shutting down of the old North Green Hill Road?
Sure. So with the opening of schools, with any opening of schools, we definitely have a police presence. We basically do a back to school blitz where we staff officers in those different school zones to remind people that school zones are back active and they need to slow down when they're out there. But specifically to Green Hill High School, we've been working with Steve Spencer. He's the safety director of Wilson County Schools, who's responsible for putting out those school traffic plans to the I guess the parents and stuff through their communication means. We've worked with him and looked at those different plans, and also with the plan at Mount Juliet Middle Schools, because that's basically 3 schools now. There you have 1 elementary and 2 middle schools there with alternating and different start times. But it'll be interesting to see with the hybrid school schedule in place and some people working on school remote. We don't believe we will see a major increase of traffic. It'll be new traffic in that area that we'll have to look at, observe, and then adapt to and see what we can do to maybe manage that. But, you know, typically with the opening of school, we know how it's going to go down. We know what's going to happen, right? But with Green Hill High School, it is new to us. So it's going to require us to observe and see where we can do better. Should we have to adjust what's occurring with the new school year? But it'll be different because we're not going to see the normal rush of students to Green Hill High School like we would if COVID was not here.
Tina, you had another question about North Green Hill Road?
Yes, how it's, you know, of course they shut down the old North Green Hill Road, but and currently we still have 2 red lights, and I understand the red light will go away at old North Green Hill Road. But I guess my question is, how are citizens being notified that, hey, you once you get down this road, you can't go anywhere? They shift them around Williamsburg. I'm just curious of how the public is going to know that there's a new North Green Hill Road.
Sure. I believe Public Works has put something out about that, but I can check to be sure that we have good communication going out about the road change. I hope there's signage up that way. I haven't been up there recently, but typically when we've had different traffic management changes, that they put a lot of good signage to let people know that that normal North Green Hill Road is no longer there. It's now a 5-lane roadway that goes out on Lebanon Road. So I think it'll be a lot better, a lot safer. But I just have to check and see with Public Works. Typically when there is a design change, that's more on their end of things, but I'll definitely check and see where we're at with that.
You mentioned the school zone safety, and last year, I believe it was last year, the 1st of July, school zones became hands-free zones only on cell phones.
Right.
Make sure everybody don't forget that, folks. But were there any other laws that went in? I know the legislative session was very abbreviated, and it was unlike that they didn't get to a lot of bills because of COVID. But were there any other laws of local interest that people that might affect something kind of obscure like that, or that didn't get a lot of press that we might want to know about?
Not that I'm aware of here, but you know, with school zones and with hands-free, that is on all roadways now, not just school zones. You know, so we have to do a really good job about making sure we don't touch our phones all the time. It started out in school zones, and then that grew to roadways anywhere you're at, whether it's a school zone or not. But which the majority of our crashes are distracted driving crashes. We have a lot of rear end crashes. It's hard to prove sometimes, but obviously they were distracted by something, and the most common distraction is a cell phone. But sometimes people say they were looking off at a business, looking at someone else driving like they shouldn't drive, and you know, they rear end someone. But we're trying to reduce our crashes as best as we can, and the number one denominator there is distracted driving, which causes that.
Before I ask you something else, I made myself a note to pass along. I saw it on social media, but I had someone specifically send me the letter that was written to them from someone that came in out of state one day last week to attend a funeral service. And they were part of the procession leading to the cemetery, and were very humbled and very sincerely appreciative of the respect that not only the citizens showed for pulling over, but the police officers getting out at the intersection and actually getting out of their car or whatever. It really made an impression, a positive impression on some out-of-town folks. So hats off to you guys. And I see it here at the corner out my office.
Sure.
That's a normal course, but to some
It
people,
is.
highly unusual, but much appreciated.
Yeah, it's interesting, Mark, especially, this kind of comes about when all the stuff from the riots and the anti-police rhetoric that we heard, because we don't experience that here. We recently gave job offers to 2 officers who are moving from San Francisco just to move to a different climate, because in listening to their stories and what they experienced going to calls and what they experienced from their government officials, it breaks your heart, right? It really breaks your heart. And they want to serve in a community, but they're having to run from a community to move to an area that's just more respected by their community members. Now, we know as a police department, we have to work towards that. Obviously, if we didn't have the stuff, the professionalism with our officers, the care that they have for the community, our hiring processes, ensure that we select the right people and the training that we provide them, we know we can lose that trust, right? But we work very, very hard. Chief Hambrick works very hard to ensure that, we excel as a police department here. But when you work here for going on 16 years, for me, I don't experience that type of activity. I don't experience a community that hates its police officers, because I grew up in a community that always loved their police department. But every now and then you'll stop someone who doesn't live here who gives you the bad feedback. But generally, our community really, really supports us, and we're grateful for that. But it's really hard to to see these other police departments that go through this. But then when you look deep down at these departments, we are a different police department. We do serve differently. To me, I feel like we serve as if we truly care about everyone in our community. So just like that person who lost their loved one, if we have the officers available to help with the funeral escort, why not help, right? If we have the officers available to help with someone unlocking their car, why not help? Something as simple as a snake in someone's house. If we have someone available to help get a snake out of someone's house, I'm not going, but I'll find an officer who will go pull the snake out of their house who has no problem with it, right? And we'll have those officers that we'll find who will go get the snake. But we're here to serve. And police officers are community servants. We are not some type of warrior out here beating down doors, doing whatever we can to arrest as many people. We truly care about keeping a community safe. And I like to use the term guardians of a community, where we're just here to serve and we're here to protect. And we are relentless about keeping the criminal activity out. And part of that relentless activity is the activity you see with Guardian Shield. We have systems in place to alert us about these criminals. So it's a lot easier for us to identify them that doesn't require any type of bias being involved. There's no bias involved in a system reading a plate, right? There's bias involved when you have humans trying to pick out who they want to stop to see if there's criminal activity there. So we work very hard at maintaining this relationship. And part of that, Mark, is yes, seeing us assist with funeral escorts, because like I said before, we're here to serve. I like to look at it this way, as if how I would want to be treated, or when I'm dealing with a suspect, if my dad or mom was in that situation and they were the suspect, how would I want them to be treated? So that's how we treat people. And if we have officers that aren't aligned with that, they don't last very long here, or we adjust their mindset so they do have a successful career at our department.
I think everyone would agree it's working. Would you mind touching on some of the services that you have available in the lobby with the kiosk, what people can get with their driver's license lost, renewed driver's license, for folks that may not know they don't have to drive all the way to the courthouse?
Yeah, sure. So you can renew your license or update it if allowed to, change your address in our lobby. But what goes even further, Mark, is that kiosk in the lobby is the same thing you can do right now on your computer. So you don't even have to drive to our office to do the things on the kiosk that sits in our lobby. That kiosk is basically there for the mindset of folks who don't have access to computers. But you can go on the Tennessee Department of Safety's website, just type in Tennessee Driver's License Services, and all the options that you can do in our lobby, you can do at home or at work on your computer. So you don't have to drive to the courthouse. Of course, one thing that you cannot do online or in our lobby is the new, what I call the gold star type license, that real ID, right? We've been extended, I think, until next year to get that, but everyone's eventually going to have to get that real ID, and that requires us to go to the courthouse or to the actual DMV to get that done. But a lot of times when I have people who call me and say, hey, is the kiosk working? I just say, hey, go online and do it yourself at home. You know, you can do it right there. You don't have to come to our office to do it at the kiosk.
Fantastic. For a long time, we pushed the police department, city pushed the Nixle. You switched to a new format, if I'm not mistaken.
We did, yeah.
I
We
think the
swapped.
website still shows Nixle. What do you automatically get transferred over to this new one, or do you have to re-register again?
So you definitely have to re-register, and we hated to go away from Nixle. We really did. But when we looked at the cost and looked at the frequency, we sent out alerts. Every time the city would send out an alert, it would cost us $600. And we talked with IT, we talked with City Hall staff as a police department. I don't think we could justify every time we press that send button to cash $600. And we looked at the total all yearly impact, and it was around $45,000 to $60,000 for us to support that program. And Nixle said they pushed it back. We met with them multiple times. They pushed it back on the cell providers that they were increasing their text messaging rates that are pushed by corporate companies. We tried to say, well, it's public safety, blah, blah, blah. And they basically said, well, they don't look at us as public safety type thing. So we went to a app-based alert service that requires someone to download this app. And it's a new app. It was going through a bunch of different hiccups at the time. It works better on iPhones more than Androids, but they're working on fixing it. And in about 3 weeks, they're going to release a new version of that app that just updates on the phone for those who already have it, but it just allows someone just to follow us as a police department for the alerts rather than try to register their address. So we provided, working with our IT director with the city, Travis Taylor, he's been very helpful, but we've provided a lot of different feedback to this company so they can work this app to work well for our community. And we will eventually get there. I think we're about 80% there where the app works how it should. I believe in maybe a month, we'll probably be at 99% where we need to be. But we continue to give feedback so we can have a system that provides good alerts to our community. And Nixle, it was just text-based. You just got a text, right? It was more reliable, of course, but we're trying to get to the reliability that we need to get to with this Atlas One. But Atlas One then provides a lot more detail in alerts. We got a lot of bad feedback with Nixle where people wouldn't know where an address was or a street was. Well, Atlas One shows them on a map where they are compared to the alert. So it provides, I guess, more actionable intelligence to the citizen on whether or not they need to view this alert as an important to them or not important to them type alert. But we're getting there. So with our alert service, it is on Atlas One. It's on the App Store on Android and on the Apple products. And it requires you to download it. And it basically puts your location where you're at to receive the alerts from your local agency, the city and police department. But that's our new service. I believe we'll probably get 99% where we need to be in about a month.
Fantastic. I'd encourage everybody to download that app. It literally takes just a minute.
Right.
When there's a overturned tractor on East Division, wondering where it's at, there's actually a map that shows you exactly where it's at. So
yeah,
cool stuff. Anybody have any, Marla, can you take some questions?
There's a question in the chat right now. Any movement to expand this to the county, talking about Guardian Shield?
Yeah, so it's interesting. You know, a lot of stuff that we start in Mount Juliet eventually starts growing to other communities near us. And I always like to revert back to social media. We were one of the first police departments on social media, and we were kind of bashed for like, why are y'all on social media? Why are y'all doing Facebook? That's not the police thing to do. Well, eventually you see where other departments are now with it. It's definitely a national thing. And we weren't the first nationally to do it. We followed what other departments leading the way were doing. But you see that now, and there's actually a county neighborhood that has already signed contract with Guardian Shield, but has no connection. They can't connect with the police department yet because the connection is not coming until October for that. So I believe the county is looking at it. I can't speak for them. I can only speak for what our city does here. But we've received a lot of inquiries about our system and how it operates and maybe how it could protect the whole community of Wilson County. But again, that's a decision that they would have to make. But you do see neighborhoods in the county pushing county government to sign on with this system. Because, you reflect our I can't, it's hard to put a number on what you prevent. I got this feeling because I don't have as many car burglaries occurring in the community as I normally would. But other areas around us are having car burglaries, right? That's not to say we'll have some tonight, but it seems like our car burg numbers are down, but other communities are up. I have this idea that they think we have this system and they're avoiding the city here. And I think other agencies are going to see this, that if we make it where it's harder for a criminal to commit crime in our community and get away with it, they will go to other communities where they are successful. It's just like fishing. If you go to a certain place to fish and you're always catching fish and all of a sudden you're not catching fish, you're going to go somewhere else. That's the same thought criminals have. And we hope that's working here. We really do. But we'll see. We'll see. I would love to see a county-wide system. Will we see it? I don't know.
When you look at the business community and the stores, the shops, the entrances, the lighting, the landscaping, all of that, what do you see as are there little things that businesses who pull into their parking lot every day and may not notice the overgrown crepe myrtles or missing some light bulbs? What are some things that local businesses might want to just do a quick inventory to help deter crime that may seem obvious, but that we might be missing?
Sure, absolutely, Mark. That's a great question. And that goes on the crime prevention by environmental design concept, where if your storefront, your property looks clean and well maintained, that's a step to prevent crime. If your bushes are cut well and don't allow for someone to hide in, that's a great way to prevent crime. Lighting is very important. Ensuring all your street lamps are working. All your parking lot lights are nice and bright that are working. Because when you look at a business and you see their landscaping's not kept up, their lights aren't working, that's going to be an easy target because they don't care that much. Because I bet their security system probably doesn't work either, right? So that's another thing you always want to be sure that works well is they're so cheap now, is have a good security system in place at your business that's well maintained. Now, there's times when we go to some gas stations where they have a theft and their security systems never worked for years and years. And the poor manager wishes it worked, but it's up to their owner or their corporate to make sure it works right. And it just never gets fixed. So just be sure that, all your different security measures are working, that your business is well maintained, well lit, your locks work well, your bushes are kept cut. It just looks like a nice business. And we see this work well with a lot of our locally owned businesses. They do a very, very good job at this. Where we see it doesn't work well is when you have that corporate hierarchy where, the manager may want it to work well, but they just get nowhere with their corporate to get further, fix of things with how something may look. But our local businesses, the heart of Mount Juliet really, and what keeps the city running and going so well, they do a really good job with this.
Very good. Does anybody have any other thoughts? Do you have an ask or anything that, Tyler, that we could do better or that you're needing help in certain places? Anything we can do to help you in your efforts?
Just continue to support our police officers. That's the biggest thing. We get tons, of support, and that energizes them to work hard. It's interesting to see how they start to feel and react when they know the community supports them. 'Cause that's a big deal now with police officers. We have officers running from cities that don't feel supported, right? Because they don't feel safe. They don't feel like if they make a decision that they're going to be held up, right? And we want our officers to know that they're supported if they make the right lawful decision, where they show that respect, show that dignity. And if they have to act for some awful reason, then they can act, and they know that they will be protected if they have to act properly. So we just continue the support. One question I didn't get is, how does our crime look to other crimes, other cities that are out there? And when I have our crime rates in front of us, and I just pull the basic cities around us, and who, we compete with back and forth is always, Hendersonville, Franklin, Brentwood, and Nolensville. We're always in that bottom area, but who exceeds us greatly around us are cities like Gallatin, Portland, Laverne, Fairview, Smyrna, Lebanon, Murfreesboro, Cookeville, Columbia, Nashville, Spring Hill, and Goodlettsville. And for example, our crime rate is 49, but Lebanon's would be 90. And the crime rate is based off the population compared to the number of offenses that occur in the community. So it's a rate. And so Nashville is 111 on their crime rate. And when you look at all the cities immediately surrounding Mount Juliet, they have a much greater crime rate. Hermitage is the murder capital of Nashville. Some people don't realize that. And then to our south, we have the city of Laverne, who also has, and Antioch, who also has more crime, and same with Lebanon to our east. So we were this little pocket that we continue to work very hard to keep this city safe. And that's why, people see the different vehicles traveling through. When they travel through and stop off at our exit, that's when that Guardian Shield alerts us, but they're just traveling elsewhere. You see a lot of the Central Pike, South Mount Juliet Road Guardian Shield alerts. That's crime cutting through Central Pike and going to Antioch, where they do have a lot higher crime rate than us. But we just happen to be this little pocket that we work very, very hard to keep safe. And our officers work very hard to do that when we're influenced by other areas that have higher crime around us. So that's kind of interesting to note. Good news is our crime rate last year was 54 in 2018, but we dropped down to 49 in 2019. And I get this feeling that crime is continuing to drop. So I hope it gets back to the numbers that we had in 2013, which was our lowest crime rate ever in the city, which was down to 43. But typically we fluctuate from 45 to 50 on a crime rate. But I would like to be lower, and even lower. And Chief's mindset is we would love to be the #1 safest city in the state of Tennessee, but we're always in the top 10. We're grateful for that, but again, we're not happy till we're #1.
Outstanding. What a way to wrap things up. Does anybody have any final thoughts or remarks or questions for Captain Chandler? Want to compliment you. I know that a number of years ago, even before the events that unfolded in Ferguson, when social media, the buzz became the police departments need to get out and meet with the community. Well, you had already been doing that. And I remember back then, I want to say cities our size in the United States, based on population, your engagement, you were top 10 in the United States. And I think 8 of the top 10 seemed like they were in Connecticut or something. I don't know what they had going on up there, but this isn't new for you guys. You've been doing it before it became the thing to do, and really leading the way for a lot of folks. So hats off.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that. And thank you to everyone who joined and listened. I think next month, Mark, Chief will be on for the Zoom, and we may alternate our Mondays that you use the police department as a topic. But we appreciate the invite and appreciate everyone that's joined in and your continued support. And that's why Mount Juliet's so great, right? It's not a police department. It's not Mark at the chamber. It's not City Hall that makes this community great. It's all of us working together to make this community great, as businesses, as residents who live here, and of course the different functions of government or our quasi-governments that make this city work so well. But appreciate all of you. And let's be a city that continues to shine to others and just continues to be that beacon that everyone can look at of where they want to live and maybe where they want to be like in their communities back home.
2 thumbs up. Awesome job.
Thanks so
Blessings to
much.
y'all. Everybody have a great rest of the day.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.